The news we've been waiting for is here. Rich Scangarello is out as Kentucky's offensive coordinator after one not so great season in Lexington. Nick Roush and Adam Luckett here to discuss it all on the KSR YouTube channel. If you aren't subscribed already, what are you doing? Go ahead, smash that subscribe button now to get all the breaking news. This offseason, there's going to be a lot, expected and unexpected. We expected this to happen. We thought Stoops would take some time. It turns out he just needed 48 hours and to go have a little shoulder surgery before they announced it. Might have just wanted to get through that coach's show as well. But nevertheless, Rich Scangarello is out. Kentucky now looking for is it 4 offensive coordinators in as many a year? I'm having a hard time keeping track.
Yeah, you would have had Gran, Cohen, Scangarello, whatever Mark Stoops announced his name first day, and then TBD in 2023. To me, Nick Stoops made the hard call, but the right call. Square peg, round hole was kind of this whole year to me. The results, at the end of the day, results got to be the results, and they were the worst. You could argue they were the worst of the Stoops era. It's down there with probably the first team, the 2013 team, and the 2020 team, who had an all-SEC schedule. Just a lot of issues. Even in a good Louisville performance, Nick, they left a lot of points on the board. That game could have easily been 35-7 in the fourth quarter, and it wasn't. And so you didn't score over 30 points against a Power 5 team this year. You only reached the 3 touchdown threshold, I think, twice. Ole Miss and Mississippi State. Every other game, it was 2 touchdowns or less, and that's just not good enough, right? And I don't we need to go back here. What did Kentucky sign up for with Scangarello? They thought they were getting a guy that was tailor-made, coming in and was going to succeed and not have growing pains as kind of a play caller in game. And it was the opposite. He had a lot of growing pains and play calling wise, and there was a lot of iffy decisions and, on the field, in the box, stuff like that. And there was just a lot of warning signs there that this wasn't going to work. So I think Stoops did what he had to do today, and I would think it's a good move doing this as soon as possible to get it out of the way and get this search started and trying to make some stuff happen, because you've got to go land a quarterback here in the portal, and they need to know. So now that go ahead.
Well, the numbers really speak for themselves. If you wanted to defend Scangarello and say, well, they're only a few plays away here and there, the margin of error should not have been that thin. They went from ranked 8th in the red zone and scoring touchdown percentage to 103rd, dropping from 72% to 53%. That's the real story of this season. Now, the other numbers were also bad. 105th in scoring offense, 107th in total offense, 109th in rushing offense, 88th in passing offense, 92nd overall in efficiency in SP+. And that feels even worse because they were a top 10 defense, right? You left the lot out on their table because you couldn't score. And Gary Danielson said this when Georgia was in town. Kentucky, if they score 25 points per game, their only loss is at Tennessee. I know, obviously, that we're not dumb enough to know that there's some nuance to that. But you have to score in the red zone. It didn't matter if Will Levis was hurt. It didn't matter if he was healthy. They just weren't scoring in the red zone all year long. You mentioned in the Louisville game. And that was the other problem, too. It never really got better. Even after the bye week, they seemingly regressed, or other teams figured them out. So I think there were reasons to believe that this hire could work out. Stoops got put in a bad spot with this hire, right? Liam Cohen leaves after the Super Bowl, right? It's in February. Most of the NFL coaching carousel had quit turning. They were 2 weeks out from spring practice. They had to delay the start of spring practice so he could go find a play caller. So of their options presented to run a similar scheme, a similar style of offense, for Will Levis, for Chris Rodriguez, it was, okay, let's get an NFL guy. They had 3 unproven entities that hadn't really called plays. That were from the similar kind of build. This guy was the most experienced. And it made sense on paper, but once he got here, there was a lot of, well, in the NFL, it's different, and in college, it's different. And he just, you never felt that he adjusted to the way that the game has to be played at the college level.
Yeah, I mean, there was just some moments like the Ole Miss game, bring on the blitz. Ole Miss
Yeah,
brought on the blitz, and they weren't ready for it. Levis gets hurt. We find out like a couple days later he hurt his toe in the first half of the Ole Miss game. The biggest play of the game, that third and short. There you run you run Levis for the first time really all year, and he gets blasted and fumbles. But he was running like in hindsight, he was hurt. You really want to go that right then, right? A gadget play to open the game against South Carolina, like. Typically, I'm not a believer in open games with gadget plays. I thought that was, in hindsight, a mistake. The Tennessee like coming out and saying, "Oh, well, we wanted to run the ball against a top flight run defense," and then saying, "Well, I didn't think their defensive line was better than I thought it was." Like I could have told you. I mean, like most people could have told you, like that they're pretty stout inside there. They're hard to run against. But like there was just some little signs like that, and it just every game it was like it was always something else, right? It was always, well, there was this and there's that and there's this and there's that, but the results got to be the results here, Nick, and these results were just unacceptable at the end of the day, and it's not what Stoops wants here. Like this is the worst case scenario probably for him, right? Fourth play caller in 4 years. Now you got to do a coaching search when you need a quarterback in the transfer portal, and you've got all this change, right, with NIL and all that. But it was just you had to make the decision, and now there's a lot of pressure riding on him here. Like this is an integral hire for the program to keep moving forward. They cannot miss on this, and so it's going to be an interesting search here and see what he targets. Like, can you do the NFL thing again? Can you risk that?
That was my question for you because. There was one Sunday I was sitting around watching NFL games at a bar, and I look around in the third quarter, and all of the games are these low-scoring, limited possessions. I think of the 7 games on in that 1 o'clock window in the third quarter, only 2 teams were in the 20s. That can work at the NFL level, the shrinking up the game. Do we think that this can work without having a first-round quarterback in Will Levis, without a top 5 running back in Chris Rodriguez, and without a program-changing, record-breaking receiver in Wandale Robinson? Did UK just capture lightning in a bottle with Liam Cohen, or do we think that this actually can be the kind of ahead of the table? This offense that's we're doing things here that haven't been done, that aren't done. We're ahead of the curve. Do we think that this style of play can work in the SEC? Because we know Mark Stoops likes to give his defense the benefit of the doubt and not keep him on the field a ton with a tempo offense kind of running them to death. Yeah,
there's more than one way to like win football games. But to me, Nick, it all comes down to explosive passing game. Can you create an explosive passing game in whatever type of offense you're running? Because you're going to play different styles, and there's going to be different types of games that break out. But at the end of the day, you're going to have to create explosive plays. We've seen Kentucky; they've found ways to be efficient on offense, but that's been the missing ticket, right? Is just the consistent passing, explosive passing game. Now you look at the personnel here, Nick. Like you don't have a stud bell cow running back coming back next year. That's something that this program has had for like 7 years. They don't have it next year. And so this is the first year they're entering a year where they don't think they have that probably since 2016, and then Snell just became a surprise. So it's been a long time. So the passing game has got to be a strength now. You've got NFL, you got 2 dudes, Dane Key, Barry and Brown. You've got 2 tight ends in Dingle and Caddis that can play, that you think could potentially play in the NFL and can be weapons in the passing game. Like passing game's got to be big here in this search. Like you got to have a coordinator. I don't care who it is. They have to be able to put a good passing game together.
And you're bringing in Anthony Brown, who's had an awesome senior year.
Well, just your wide receiver recruiting has just been outstanding.
Yeah.
Here in these last couple cycles, and you just got that. Like that's the offense. Like you got to build it around those pieces, and you've got to be able to they've got to be able to transform into an offense that can be carried by a passing game here. I think for a couple seasons.
Well, and especially when you're looking at an offensive line too that is still in the process of being rebuilt. And I know that Scangarello, he had some things working against him, right? He had an offensive line that was rebuilding. He had a suspended Chris Rodriguez, but like you gave him some time, and he wasn't able to scheme around it, wasn't able to adjust around it. I know some folks were like, well, he has all these connections to quarterbacks. There's going to be quarterbacks out there in the portal.
Yeah.
This next hire that'll probably be a part of the interview process, right? Like
no doubt.
They'll bring in their binder, and in addition, like, all right, what quarterback are you going to go get? Not to slight Destin Wade or Kai Sharon, but you got to bring in somebody else, and it wouldn't hurt if this next guy brought in a running back or two. So obviously this is going to be an exhaustive search. Like it's been cooking up a hot board for a long time. Let's go over a couple of the big names. I think the biggest name on my list, because it has the potential quarterback combo as well, is Brian Hartline at Ohio State. He has not called plays, but he's considered one of the best recruiters in the industry. They just lost to Michigan. He might be looking to get out, branch out somewhere else, and he could bring one of those quarterbacks with him, whether it's Kyle McCord or the is it Devin Brown? Devin
Brown.
Yeah. So there's a solid package deal there who would still have those recruiting ties nearby and also, nationwide, where if he's looking to be a proven play caller, this feels like a good environment to succeed, to where he could use this as, 2 or 3 years later, he's a big time Power 5 head coach elsewhere.
Yeah, I think his name's being thrown around for the Cincinnati gig right now. Number one, Kentucky does not want him at Cincinnati, even if he's not working at Kentucky next year. That's going to make recruiting Cincinnati maybe even more difficult than it was with Fickle there. So that's number one. Number two, now he would coach receivers. What happens with Woodward there? You don't want to lose one of your best recruiters. You would need a QB coach. There's thoughts maybe he could bring his brother Mike Hartline, who obviously Kentucky connection, who was a analyst at Auburn this year. Maybe that's what they do there, but I think there's a lot to like about that. We talked about passing game. He's Ohio State's passing game coordinator. It would be a chance for him to call plays, and it would put him on a fast track to a head coaching position. Like he's going to be a head coach here eventually, Nick. And so Kentucky would have that opportunity, and he's going to get ball players here. Like if he came here, they're going to be able to do some damage in the portal, and they're going to do some damage with high school kids. I mean, he's going to get players here. And so there's a lot to like, I think, about Brian Hartline. And I think he's at the top of the list here when you start digging into candidates. But we do need to, I can't believe I'm saying this, but like Liam Cohen, right? He's out there.
Yeah.
The Rams season is going, it's going about as bad as you could have thought it would go, right? I mean, it's going, it's like awful. Sean McVay can go and do TV at any moment now. I mean, any moment. He could call Fox up, whoever, outside of probably Monday Night Football, and be like, I want to come do TV, and they're gonna throw out the red carpet, part the Red Sea to get him on there, that could happen, I feel like. So we'll see if he does that, or is he? And here's the thing about the Rams: they have no picks. They have built this team through trades and free agency, and they went all in for a Super Bowl. It worked, but when you do that, that makes the rebuild long. And they got a quarterback that's over the hill, right? I mean, Stafford, how much longer does he have left? So you got Cohen's in a situation where potentially there could be maybe a scapegoat. There could be a thing where things aren't going well, and eventually McVay's going to leave, I would assume. Whether it be for another job or whether it just be to do TV or whatever. And so maybe this is an opportunity to go to a place well, and it's a nice landing spot for you.
Right.
But we'll see. I mean, it's something we have to, a week ago or 2 weeks ago, I wouldn't have had him on my board, but now I think there's some developments that say that it's very plausible. I think it makes some sense on his end, and sure Mark Stoops would love to have him back, right? Because there was even good recruiting stuff going with Cohen too. And then the guys on the roster are probably going to be pretty excited to have him back, I would imagine, based on what we know.
There's certainly a lot of familiarity there. You could also say the same thing about Dan Mullen, who's spent 20 years coaching in the Southeastern Conference. Was a play caller at Florida, head coach at Mississippi State and at Florida, who's spent a year in the booth. We brought him up last year, but that might have been too fresh. Now he's like a CD-list guy for ESPN. And even though he has an abrasive personality, it would certainly make things fun. But Stoops, in 10 years, Stoops has had, 3 top 50 offenses, and every year that's happened, it's been a ton of success. If Mullen can just get you to that point, you just pass it off to him. This would be an easy a soft landing spot for him to get back into the head coaching ranks if that's the route he wants to go. Now, to be fair, in all of these, look at outside of the Eddie Grand hire, I think that was the only one that we kind of, all right, this feels like the right guy. He's probably going to be it. Mark Stoops could go in a ton of different directions.
Yeah, no doubt.
A ton of different directions. And all of the guys we list here, it could completely come from out of nowhere in this hire. So I think it's going to be
yeah. I do want to say this about Mullen, because I think people act like this is just impossible. If Mark Stoops calls Dan up and says, "Hey, Dan, I'm looking for an offensive coordinator. Would you be interested?" I think he's going to say yes. Like, he's like a D-list ESPN person right now.
He's doing action.
He's not even calling, games. And then, he's not even a blip on the radar on these searches, right? You don't really see him mention much in these searches. He's going to have to go back in somewhere if he wants to coach again. Now, is he going to do like the Saban thing where he goes and works as an analyst? Or you're going to have to go be a play caller somewhere, right? You're just going to have to bite the bullet and go be a play caller somewhere. He could go be a play caller for a good SEC program, and man, we all know how Dan Mullen is. Like, playing Florida and playing Mississippi State is going to be attractive to him if that's what he's looking for. So I just think if it's not Kentucky, it's going to be someone else, right? I think it's gonna happen somewhere. Is it Kentucky? I mean, I think there's a lot of reasons to like him, Nick. He's had a bunch of good SEC offenses. They've never been really bad. He's never had a bad offense. He's been at Mississippi State. He's been in a similar situation. And his offense was usually the strength of those Mississippi State teams that always found a way to win games in a brutal SEC West. I just think there's a lot to like there. And if you want to play the style ball Stoops does, and we want to be run heavy, you got to run the quarterback. You can't just have a quarterback back there that cannot run if you're going to want to run heavy like that.
Right.
Mullen invests in that. They're going to run the quarterback if you get him. But he's also showed, with Trask, that if he's got good receivers and a good quarterback, his offense can succeed with a passing game. He's not Gus Malzahn. He's put together a good passing game.
Yeah.
So I just think there's a lot to like with him. For years we said he's one of the best play callers in the SEC, and he's just sitting there.
Yeah.
And he's not getting a job. He's sitting there. You could go get him. I think it makes a lot of sense personally.
And he wouldn't have Todd Grantham calling defense, so he doesn't have to score.
And if you're Mark, you don't have to Dan. It's your show on offense. You don't have to worry. He's got that. He knows he knows what the hell he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
And he knows how to win in this league and how to succeed on offense in this league.
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense to me. It just does.
Kentucky will have, we alluded to the talent at wide receiver. That will certainly be attractive. You also have a program that's willing to pay, $1.5 million for an offensive coordinator. So the salary should not be a problem to be competitive in this market. So there's a lot of things at play here. There's a lot more names that we'll get to eventually. Mark Whipple was a guy we threw around last time that ended up in Nebraska. I know closer to home, cousin Brian, bring Brom home. I don't know how much Stoops needs to run it with all those receivers anymore. So there's going to be a lot of familiar names we kind of bring up, but it could go off the grid.
Yeah, I mean, you just don't know, is he going to look NFL at all, or is he going to look both? Brian Johnson is the Eagles quarterbacks coach. He was Mullen's offensive coordinator. That could be a nice blend of both. You look at the Eagles, what they're doing in the run game, they're doing some really good stuff. Johnson just interviewed for the Auburn head coaching job. and so he didn't get it obviously,
Right,
but he
right.
was in the mix there. He's on that kind of path, so you could let him come in, call plays, and he could be like the net. He could be kind of in the Liam Cole mode of where he's on a hot track to somewhere. But people can't get like the Heartline thing. You can't get where he'll leave in a year. That's good if he's leaving in a year. If he's leaving in a year for another job, that means he kicked ass at Kentucky, and you're just gonna deal with. You'll take that every time, right?
Yeah.
He kicked ass, and he's probably gonna get you some good players. Shake his hand and say good luck, and do it again. You can't be afraid of that. Like for Kentucky to succeed, they're gonna have coaching turnover, and they got to replace good coaches with good coaches. And so,
that is one point to stress again that we're at a point though where Mark Stoops has taken Kentucky to a new spot, right? Like you want to be, you're right in the mix of things in the SEC, and the difference really between 7-5 versus 9-3, 10-2, New Year's 6, it's offense. It's all it is. It's all about getting this hire right, and more time. It's about 50-50. It's about a coin toss on whether you get the right guy now with Mark Stoops. So this is going to be a monumental hire. I do not foresee a specific timetable like it on this. Typically about 2 weeks, give or take.
Yeah.
It's a dead period right now. He doesn't have to be on the road recruiting, so he can focus a lot of time on this. I would imagine it might take a little bit longer if he's got an NFL guy.
Maybe the surgery was fake. Maybe he's on, riding planes around. He didn't want people tracking him.
So somebody get the plane tracker on. All right, we got to see these private jets going in and out of Lexington. But it's going to be an exciting time. The Rich Scangarello experiment did not work. But hey, on to the next one. Time to move on, and we'll be keeping you up to date throughout the coaching search all over KentuckySportsRadio.com, whether it's on the blog, on the YouTube channel. Make sure you're subscribed and checking in with KSR daily. For Adam Luckett, I'm Nick Roush. We'll see you soon. Who knows what's going to happen next? It's going to be a crazy couple weeks, but we'll have you covered for it all right here on Kentucky Sports Radio.